I got moon news. Okay, I got topics about the moon. I got moon stories, and I want to talk about the moon.
Good. I have a Space Force story later.
You got a Space Force story?
I do.
Oh, fantastic! People are always excited about Space Force and all the good things that they're doing.
I don't think anyone's excited about Space Force.
You're right. It was a Donald Trump invention, and it's been pretty much a forgotten branch of the military at this point.
Huh.
You think they're still up there waiting? Whoa.
Maybe.
My mother would say, you love trucks. I do.
He should have called it Truck Force instead of Space Force. Truck Force. They would have got more attention. Because people love trucks.
Sounds like an 80s cartoon.
Truck Force. Well, there's big moon news and big China news. I'll bring this up on screen so we all can enjoy this Chinese space news. Chinese space moon news.
Chinese space news.
We like this. So China discovers stunning crystal on the moon, nuclear fusion fuel for limitless energy. The find makes China the third country to discover a new mineral on the moon, and the country says it's analyzed the soil for rare helium-3. And that's the best number of helium I've heard is helium-3. That's the one you want. All the other ones can kind of just pound sand.
Not helium-2 or helium-4?
I think I don't think there is a helium-4. I think you can have 1, 2, or 3. That's it.
2?
No.
Maybe 4?
There is no helium-4. I think just 1 through 3. That's what we're looking at here. But China has discovered a crystal from the moon made of a previously unknown mineral, while also confirming that the lunar surface contains key ingredients for nuclear fusion, a potential form of effectively limitless power that harnesses the same forces that fuels the sun and other stars. Wow, okay. The crystal is part of a batch of lunar samples collected by the Chinese Chang 5 mission, which landed on the moon in 2020, loaded up with about 4 pounds of rocks and delivered them to Earth days later. After carefully sifting through the samples, which are the first moon rocks returned to Earth since 1960 or 1976, according to this history, scientists at the Beijing Research Institute of Uranium Geology spotted a single crystal particle with a diameter smaller than that of a width of human hair. The crystal is made of a novel mineral called changsonite. I think they just gave it that title based after the Chang rover or the Chang.
Sounds awful racist.
Yeah, it is a little. But they found finders keepers and they get to name it. Named after the Chinese moon goddess, Chang also inspired China's series of lunar missions. It was confirmed. It was confirmed as a new mineral on Friday by the Commission of New Minerals. So that's a very official commission. So there we go. Changsonite is the 6th new mineral to be identified in moon samples, and the first to be discovered by China. Before China, only the U.S. and Russia could claim to have discovered a new moon mineral. It is a transparent crystal that forms in a region on the northern lunar near face that was volcanically active about 1.2 billion years ago. So this is good news, I guess, for the Chinese. They're saying this could. I did a little bit of reading. I haven't seen any English translation of why they think this crystal could lead to limitless energy. I don't know about that yet. I actually did quite a bit of research. I tried to find out what was going on. I saw some Chinese reports. They're saying it's related to nuclear fusion, and the Chinese are starting up a new nuclear program for power. I don't know how this new moon crystal is related, if it is at all. But if it does lead to limitless energy, you'd imagine that there would be a giant space race going on right now, if not already taking place, to get access to this mineral so no one else can get it. And this probably will call back to the discussion we had about who controls the moon, who has the rights to mine the moon. We talked about that story a few weeks ago on the show. when it comes to space law and interplanetary law. Like, who actually has the right to mine the moon, and for what purposes? And by all accounts, it seems like it's a bit of a free-for-all. And there's another little piece of moon news here. And this kind of flew under the radar. I didn't hear about this one. So this is the head of NASA. I think his name's Nelson. And he had some major concerns about China and its most recent missions to the moon. Here's a report from India on this, because I didn't hear it here in the United States.
However, the biggest challenge to U.S. space supremacy is not from Russia. It is now from China. Now, Washington is accusing China of trying to take over the moon. In an interview to a German newspaper, the NASA chief, Bill Nelson, has slammed the Chinese space program. He says, and I'm quoting him here, "We must be very concerned that China is landing on the moon and saying, it's ours now, and you stay out." Not just that, he also accused China of stealing technology from other nations. The NASA chief even said Beijing was learning how to destroy satellites launched by other countries. Beijing has since slammed his comments, accusing him of smearing China.
There you go. Nelson, the director of NASA, said, hey, we're concerned about China taking over the moon.
Space Force.
I could see them doing that. They're there currently. It's not, by all mainstream accounts, it's not being currently occupied. We don't know. There's rumors that there's bases on the other side of the moon, the one that doesn't face Earth. And there's also rumors that there is a secret space program that does make fairly frequent trips to the moon back and forth, and that all this public hubbub is just that. It's just publicity and marketing that is going on. So maybe there could be some kind of moon battle, space war going on the moon in the very near future.
Just if we can somehow get Russia involved, then we'll just send all sorts of money up there.
Just let them fight it out up there. I mean, honestly, it seems like a good neutral ground for a battle. It's got new elements, so you would have to train up a little bit. You have to level up your soldiers to deal with 160 Earth's gravity. Every gun you fire would probably send you flying back because of the propulsion of it, the concussion blast. So it'd be an interesting battle up there. What's that Space Force news? I'm going to hit that Space Force news before we.
Oh, I was saving it for later, but I'll do it right now.
I thought it was applicable to the maybe the moon stuff I got going.
It has nothing to do with that. It's straight Space Force news.
Okay,
but there is a video. Do you want it?
No, save it for later.
Okay,
if you think it's back of the show material, and we'll leave it for there. I decided
back of the bus material. You get back in the bus.
All right. And so I'll move over here. I just got a quick little fun list of 10 weird anomalies and bizarre conspiracies about the moon. Oh, yes. We won't read down all 10 of these. I figured since we're talking about the moon a little bit here, it might be kind of good to go over some of the theories about the moon. And there's a lot, and I know a lot of these theories. I'm sure we've all talked about them, and everyone that's listened to this show has heard some pretty wild things about the moon. The one I'm thinking about, and I won't even say it right now. I'm wondering if it's on this list, and I won't. It's a pretty interesting theory, but I'll read down just a little bit of this list here for anybody who doesn't know about these theories. Here it is. Here's a few of them. So number 10, it's the dimensions and positioning are too perfect for some. So I believe what they're saying here is that it's dimension, the way the moon is positioned in our sky and its distance from Earth, it fits perfectly over the sun, causing a total solar eclipse. That just seems improbable. It seems that to some that the coincidences are just too many, and that some people think that it was placed there in that orbit for just those events. I don't know. It would seem like it would take an immense amount of energy and technological know-how to move an object that big. If we do, in fact, live in this 3D universe and space is not entirely fake and gay. It's not been proven either way. Space might be one or the other. We don't know. But it is a fascinating thought. Number 9, the moon is hollow. Yes, Carl Sagan stated in a 1966 book, Intelligent Life in the Universe, that a natural satellite, which accepted thinking says that is the moon, can't be hollow. Most would agree with them. So it shocked scientists greatly when seismic equipment on the moon registered substantial reverberations on November 20th, 1969, after the intentional jettisoning of the Apollo 12 lunar module ascent stage back down to the surface of the moon, crashing. And not only did the moon reverberate like a bell, it did so for over an hour. If the data is to be believed, it suggests that the moon is hollow. During the following missions, a greater payload was jettisoned and the reverberation was measured yet again. This time, the effect was even greater, with the ring continuing for well over 3 hours. So I've heard people say, well, it might not be hollow, but there might be just large cavernous areas under the moon's surface, which may account for this bell, or that it may have rang like a bell because it is so densely packed. Like, it is not hollow, but it is made up of a different material, which does ring. So I think there's a lot of contention there. So, number 8, the moon's craters are strange. Okay. The moon is littered with craters from multiple impacts over many, many years of its existence. To some, it is strange how uniform these craters look, even in terms of their depth. Except the knowledge tells us that they should vary greatly in depth and width, yet they don't. Just another anomaly of space, most likely, but to some, it's a little more. Those who contend that the moon is artificial or hollow point to these craters as being further proof of their theory. One such belief suggests that the inner casing of sorts exists under the rocky lunar surface. So maybe the rocky surface is like the armor, and that the true face of the moon is below that armor. Okay. I don't know about that. I don't know if I buy the craters are too uniform.
Doesn't that go along with kind of the Dyson sphere theory?
Yeah. And that kind of no spoilers here. So there's a newer movie called Moonfall, which I think is out on HBO, which kind of has the moon as a Dyson sphere.
By which you mean a giant vacuum.
Yes, a giant Dyson vacuum in the shape of a sphere. Yes.
Yes.
Number 7, the moon's many artificial structures. Now, I've heard about this one. There are tons of books written about this. I think 5. But there's some pretty interesting images. So NASA says that artificial structures on the moon are optical illusions in most cases and the result of blurry images. However, eagle-eye UFO enthusiasts state that these images are undeniable proof of alien and artificial structures on the moon. A quick internet search on this subject will bring back a plethora of images, and some of them are quite convincing. But there is little, if any, solid proof to back up some of these alleged finds. Well, the one they have right here, they say this is the shard on the moon, which is like a pillar. And I don't know. There's some pretty interesting structures, artificial or not, on the moon. You see some things that are just coming straight out of the surface, and you would have to imagine a few miles above the surface. Some of these structures, I think some of the calculations that they're at least a half a mile in length to be seen by our telescopes down here.
But Mike, it says right there in the text that NASA says, no, that's an optical illusion.
It's an optical illusion. Don't worry about it. Even though there is a clear shadow. There's a clear shadow. Even though they say it's an optical illusion, the pictures are still worth looking at. One such anomaly goes by the name the Shard, which can be found in NASA's image LO384M. I love that image. It appears to show an artificial structure towering above the surface. The fact that it also appears to project a shadow leads many UFO researchers to reject the optical illusion suggestion, which I completely agree. Interestingly, a short distance away, relatively speaking, sits another alleged structure. The tower has been estimated to be around 11 kilometers or 7 miles tall. If proven to be true, if these proven to be true buildings on the moon, this is taller than anything on Earth and might offer insight into how such weak gravity might be used for our own space explorers. Of course. Number 6, it was brought here and placed in orbit. This kind of goes back to the original one, how it fits too perfectly over the sun. But this goes into that it was a constructed object and flown into position. So it's a giant space station, a Death Star, if you will. A lot of people think it's a Death Star.
Well, couldn't it also be just space junk, and like some aliens were like, I don't want this. You take it here. Just leave it in orbit over there.
I think that's just a valid theory as any. Like, we tried to build something, it didn't work out. Here, you have it. It's a hand-me-down moon.
You throw this away.
What?
Maybe it literally is just their junkyard. Like, they built something to store all their stuff because they don't want to litter. They're
and then they built a shell around it, so it was hollow. They filled it with trash, built a shell around it, and just left it here. Yeah.
At least it's out of the way. You know where it's at, and it looks pretty when it's over the sun. So there you go. And number 5, the moon is the result of alien intelligence.
Wait, like 3 of these so far are the same.
They're kind of there's kind of the same. If an unknown ancient or indigenous civilization was not behind the purposeful placement of the moon, then the only logical choice would be to suggest that some ET race is responsible. So I guess in the previous ones, they're saying some other advanced civilization here on Earth did it. In number 5, they're saying someone from another star system did it. Okay.
Now they're just splitting hairs.
Yeah, they're really, this could be like a top 5 list instead of a top 10. But, it's the top 10 list, so you got to go with the numbers. Number 4, the moon's rotation is also unique. Is it? I don't know. Well, it only faces one way. It technically slowly rotates, but okay. We've all heard of the dark side of the moon, the part of our celestial neighbor that we never see. Many people think that this is because the moon doesn't spin. However, it is more accurate to call this part of the moon the far side.
I was going to say, there's no dark side.
Yes. As it takes the moon 27.3 days to orbit Earth once. At the same time, it also takes the moon 27 days to complete a rotation on its own axis. So, okay. Number 3, Alex Collier's Letters from Andromeda. You ever heard about this book?
Letters from Andromeda, isn't that a Lifetime original movie?
I would watch it on Lifetime if they hired people to play act this thing. I think that would be the most watched Lifetime miniseries, but we'll find out. Well, in this controversial and widely ridiculed book, Letters from Andromeda, author and researcher Alex Collier claims to have uncovered the real history of the moon. Perhaps the way he sourced his information made people a little suspicious. He had received telepathic communications from an alien who resides in the Zentia constellation, and these are the tamer parts of the claim. According to Collier, the moon was actually a huge spaceship that arrived here millions of years ago carrying reptilian human hybrids and the first humans to set foot on Earth. Collier said that the moon was hollow and there were several secret entrances around its surface. He also confirmed that a metal shell exists below the surface. So a metal shell below its dusty, crater-faced exterior. Okay. Well, I mean, this kind of, so far, it kind of, it would make sense to a certain degree that it is some sort of alien base. There are a lot of UFO footage from just amateur astronomers look at the moon through the telescope, and they do capture some pretty strange objects that seem to be leaving the orbit of the moon or traversing its surface. And there's some pretty compelling evidence that there is weird stuff going on up there. As for a spaceship from another galaxy or star system, I don't know. But he goes on to say, even more outlandish, according to this article, he claims that there were remains of an ancient alien base on the inside of the moon, left over from a huge war that was fought 113,000 years ago. These bases were now occupied by a secret world government that is working alongside an extraterrestrial race. Well, I'm with them. Okay. I think so far this is the theory that I like the best.
Yes.
You're laughing over there.
I mean, there's not a whole lot funny about what you're doing over here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're really having a good time over there, aren't you? You're losing your mind, are you?
I'm going to lose my mind today.
I got two more over here.
Yeah.
Number 2, ancient texts speak of a time before the moon. Oh, yeah, okay. Many ancient writings speak of a time before the moon. In turn, many scholars have quoted these works over the centuries. For example, Aristotle wrote in Arcadia stating that the land was occupied before there was a moon in the sky above the earth. Similarly, Apollonius?
Apollo Creed?
Not Apollo. Yeah, Apollo Creed of Rhodes spoke of a time when
I don't see it, but I'm guessing it's Apollonius.
Apollonius, yes. When not all the orbs were yet in the heavens. Tribes in Colombia also had such notions in their traditional oral legends. They state in the earliest of times when the moon was not yet in the heavens. So, okay, some interesting stuff. And then number 1, operational bases. So this is also a repeat of the earlier one about letters from Andromeda. Alex Collier is certainly not the only person to claim that bases exist on the moon. There have been a wave of such declarations, often connected to anonymous whistleblowers, and leaked secret documents over the last 2 decades. The recent claim about the presence of an operational moon base was made by Dr. Michael Salla, who works with the Chinese Space Agency in their attempts to achieve a manned mission to the moon. If successful, this will be the first such landing since NASA's Apollo 17 landing on the moon. Salla also says that the base was the result of a military-industrial extraterrestrial complex. Even more outlandish were his comments that NASA was actively bombing such bases as well as ancient artifacts and facilities to cover up their existence. Furthermore, he stated that secret mining missions were being carried out by a secret world government that made such a covert pact with an unknown extraterrestrial race. Okay, so there you go. The top 10 weird theories about the moon. I think there could be a mix of them. I don't know if you'd imagine if we're bombing the moon, there would be evidence of that. Like people are constantly looking at the moon, so you would probably see like little tiny explosions on the moon. I would imagine.
Not if you're not looking. You're
Only
like, hey,
if
look,
you're looking. You're right.
look over there, and then they blow up the moon.
Yeah, I think that we do probably have some sort of secret base on the moon. They were talking about building one in the 70s. Hell, in the book The Day After Roswell, Colonel Philip Corso said, yeah, there was plans to build a base on the moon. Whether or not they went through with it or not, I don't know. So I think they probably do have some sort of probably military presence on the moon. I mean, why?
And again, if anyone wants to explore that in fiction, the series For All Mankind, it's an alternate history of the space race. They do colonize or not colonize. They have permanent stations, bases on the moon.
Is Carl Weathers in that?
It stars only Carl Weathers, very much like Eddie Murphy does for his movies.
I like that. I've watched that.
All the parts. He writes and directs every episode. He also acts out all the space scenes, and you can literally see him stand there holding models.
Yeah.
Very low budget.
Well, yeah, I'm going to wrap it up here. But so China found those new crystals on the moon. That means China's got to go back there, get all those special moon crystals so they can have limitless power. If we do currently have a military base on the moon, I would imagine that we would probably want to run off China so they wouldn't dare come back. But wouldn't you imagine the perfect opportunity to take out China is just to take out their probe before it even landed down? Like, the deal's done. They landed down, they got information, and China's just going to keep sending things back. They're going to keep sending people up there until they get what they want. I think they missed an opportunity. If they wanted supremacy over the moon, they lost it here. My thought.
Well, it's probably because all the stuff that NASA uses up on the moon is made in China, so they just turned it off or something.
It's all Huawei sponsored communications.
So hold on, it's updating the firmware. I wonder why.
It's a pretty cool moon gun you got up there.
Yeah, it's for all mankind.
I gotta buy that.
There was some
series.
shooting going on up on the moon.
How many seasons are there?
Oh shoot, I think they finished the third.
Oh, cool.
The third season's about Mars. They do the same thing on Mars.
Wow. Okay.
I like Rise and Fall had a comment. The moon is a big space weed dispensary.
He might not be far. I mean, what if it is like a way station for them to sell human blood? I mean,
adrenochrome.
Yeah. Well, the theory that's not on here is the one proposed by John Lear. And John Lear is an infamous blowhard, and he's got the name Learjet, and he's claimed to have pretty good insider info. He'd call into Art Bell all the time and George Norrie, and he claimed that the moon was an artificial structure, and its purpose is to be a soul recycling plant. So when you die, your soul goes to the moon, and it is then held there until it is recycled, sent back down here or some other place. But it is a giant soul collection device, according to John Lear, and I'm paraphrasing here.
Yes.
That theory is not on a list. That's number 11. In fact, that theory could have took up like 2 or 3 more spots, some of the repurposed ones they had on a list. So.
I was going to say, that was pretty weak top 10. It was like, here's 6 and a bunch of things are the same.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links.